when I was 15, I wrote a letter to the president. I was in the village, deep in rural Tanzania, far away from any sort of civilization. No roads, no water. And there I was, experiencing deep rural life. Now, I was at a school where we were surrounded by a farming village. And this village was also using the same road that we were using to go to the city. A bad road, sometimes impassable during the rain. And what this affected was the very high post-harvest losses for that village. I saw this, and being aggressive as I was, I wrote a letter to the president. And it got published in the biggest newspaper in the country, The Citizen. And well, I was a village celebrity for a while. Felt good. The school took it and put it on a notice board for a while. And then something happened a year later. The road got fixed. And you think that people would accredit it to the media house that published it? No, 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 no. The village chairman and the leaders would say, oh, it was in the trajectory. It was gonna happen. It was in the government plans. But what moved that change was momentum. Media created that momentum for that change. And that's when I learned the power of media. Today, I run a media house that does that. Thank you. We share stories of Mbeya, my media, Highlands FM radio. We share stories that sometimes would remain invisible. We enable our communities to learn about agriculture, healthcare, nutrition, you name it. But we also share about these communities to organizations that come to us so that they can make impactful change. And most people don't think that this is the work of a media house, but that's what media does, connect people. And when you think about media, what comes to your mind? Television, radio? But media has transformed over the years to connect people. People used to use drums, scrolls, town criers to alert people. Danger, that was media forms. This transformed to radios, televisions, what we use today. And what we noticed that the cities that are most connected are the ones that are most developed. One example I can give you that will transform what you think about media is in 14th century Africa, there was a king. His name was Mansa Musa. He had a pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, this was a journey of 1,800 kilometers. And this king had more than 10,000 men. Now, this is 14th century Africa, where a journey of 100 kilometers could leave you dead. But he had a plan. He used a medium. And the media at the time that he was using was scrolls, used by messengers. And they went before him the whole trip, all the way to Mecca, and they went back, shared with him the route, the geography, the communities, the diseases, everything that he could encounter to build that route to Mecca. But they also shared something that transformed all those communities until today. They told those communities, Mansa is coming. So all those villages and towns, they built inns, food stalls, trade centers so that the king and all his men could use them. And that grew trade. Until today, all those cities that were visited by Mansa and his men are now cities from villages. This is Gao, Timbuktu, Cairo. So is media an accessory? Definitely not. But in today's world, media is an accessory. We're not taken as an infrastructure for development. It's a by the way item. It shouldn't be like that. Today, we here are purchasing goods and services from all across the world, from medias that were created by other continents. But we're consuming goods. We're seeing them on medias from all across the world. What is Africa doing to ensure we're selling ourselves to the world? Our goods, our services, our tourism. Do we have mediums that we count on? This is something we should think about. When we look at today's world, we think that we're only supposed to be geared on creating medias that focus on entertainment, but that is not the case. Media should be the pinnacle of development. I was reading a report from a communication expert. His name is Samuel Kamande from Kenya. Now, this communication expert shared how a housing policy and a health policy were scrapped because the population could not understand it, so they pushed it back. Now, some would say this was a policy failure, but it is a communication failure because they failed to communicate the advantages of those policies, what it would be like for the people, and the people pushed it back. We see this every day in different countries. Every day. If policy can be affected by communication, shouldn't communication be the 18th SDG? Think about it. Back in Mbeya, I noticed something. When we first started our radio station, more than 15 years ago, it was not a very progressive region. But today Mbeya is the third income generator in the country, from agriculture, from trade, from mining. Is it a coincidence that there are more than 15 media houses in Mbeya? What these medias do is they share the opportunities and the challenges. So the opportunities grab investment. The challenges get worked upon. And the city excels. And you'll see that all across Tanzania, the cities that have the most media houses are the cities that exhale. That is communication. And that is how it leads to development. Now, that's what we're trying to do for Africa. We're building a bigger media house, bigger than ours, that could make every community in Africa visible. And these communities will be connected, enabling everyone to trade beyond borders. Because can we really trade without communication? Imagine if you could access every community in this continent. You could do business there, NGOs and organizations could go there because they have data about that region and they can access that region. That is how we can move Africa forward. Now also, we want to make sure that we build a better global narrative for the continent. Right now, the current narrative does not help with tourism or trade or creativity. The narrative of Africa beyond is not something that helps us, but it's no one's fault but our own. We're supposed to build a medium that shouts on our courage, our innovation, our creativity, our culture. A media that African heads of state can launch investments. Diaspora can launch trade initiatives. And youth can learn properly their culture and their history. And in that sense, that media connects the continent to the world and us to each other. Now, this is something that's not done before, and it's something that we're trying to build. But for us to get there, we have to understand the direction media is going. Co-creation. Media was once a one-way communication channel with drums and scrolls, and then it became a two-way communication channel with emails and phone calls. And then it became collective with social media. Where we're headed is co-creation, where firms can sit with journalists and showcase what's happening in the firm place. That is where we're headed, but to go there, we need to ensure as a community that the policies around these medias support its growth. The regulations around it protect them so that they can move the development of these communities. It is in our best interest to ensure that these medias excel, because the exhalation of this media is the growth of our economies and our countries. And people always ask, how? momentum. That's how. Thank you.